The August heat in San Francisco was unforgiving, pressing down on the pavement like a burning weight. Along Oakwood Avenue, where gleaming high-rises gave way to aging duplexes and tired sidewalks, a slate-gray Tesla Model S came to a sudden, reluctant stop. It gave a quiet whine, then fell completely silent. Smoke began to curl from beneath the hood, a harsh reminder that even the most expensive machines could fail. Behind the wheel sat Nathan Remy, founder and CEO of RemyTech, a billion-dollar tech firm that had taken Silicon Valley by storm. At 40, Nathan was hailed as a visionary, sharp, strategic, a master of scale and silence. He had it all: prestige, power, the glowing magazine covers, and a penthouse with glass walls that overlooked the glittering bay. But beneath the titanium frame glasses and bespoke charcoal suit was a man few knew. Nathan lived inside calendars and conference calls. His apartment was quiet, not the peaceful kind, but the echoing kind. He woke each morning to schedules, not voices. There were no family dinners, no weekend hikes, no gentle arms to fall into, just data, deliverables, deals. He checked his watch. 4:12 p.m. The shareholder meeting that started at noon had dragged into late afternoon. And now this: an overheated battery, a disabled car, the last straw in a day that had already drained him. Nathan pulled off his tie, leaned back against the headrest, and considered calling his driver. That's when he saw her. Across the street, on a cracked stretch of sidewalk in front of a peeling yellow duplex, sat a little girl on an overturned milk crate. Her deep brown skin shimmered with sweat. In her lap rested a porcelain doll, golden curls, a velvet blue dress, and wide glass eyes that stared into nothing. Beside her sat a hand-drawn cardboard sign written in uneven purple crayon. "Pretty doll, $5, my mom needs medicine." 5 words, childlike, simple, but they pierced something inside Nathan Remy. He who had sealed billion-dollar contracts without blinking, he who had laid off hundreds with a nod, he who thought himself untouchable, now sat breathless, staring at a child and a sign that made everything else seem small. Without thinking, he opened his door. No logic, no calculation, only this: something inside him had shifted, and Nathan Remy's carefully controlled world was about to unravel, one step across the street at a time. Nathan stepped out of the car as if something beyond him had pulled him forward. The sun scorched his skin, the heat clinging to his suit like a second, suffocating layer, but he barely noticed. The city's sounds, car horns, footsteps, the whisper of wind through tangled wires, faded into the background. All he saw was the girl. She sat small and still, her knees drawn close, the faded pink of her cotton dress nearly blending into the crate beneath her. Her dark curls framed a face too solemn for 7 years old. She clutched a porcelain doll in her lap, golden curls, glassy eyes, and a velvet dress that seemed to carry stories from another time. Nathan approached slowly, careful not to startle her, as if entering sacred ground. The girl looked up. Her eyes, impossibly large, impossibly deep, met his. They held both desperation and something more dangerous: hope. "Hi there," Nathan said gently, crouching down despite the fine dust settling on his tailored slacks. "What's your name?" "Zoe," she replied, barely above a whisper. "Zoe Martin." "That's a beautiful name," he said with a warm smile. "And what about this lovely doll?" Zoe hesitated, then lifted the doll with both hands reverently. "Her name is Alara. My grandma gave her to me before she went to heaven. She said Alara would always protect me." Nathan swallowed hard. "Alara is very special, Zoe. But if she means so much to you, why are you selling her?" That question cracked something in her. Zoe's shoulders shook, her tiny fingers clutching the doll tighter, as tears filled her eyes. "My mom's real sick," she said, her voice breaking. "She can't get out of bed. She's burning with fever and coughing all the time. The doctor gave her a prescription, but the medicine is really expensive." I thought, if I sold Ilara... Nathan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. "Where's your dad?" he asked softly. Her lip quivered. "He left. He said Mom was too expensive to love." The words hit Nathan like a punch to the gut. "I don't want to sell Ilara," Zoe whispered. "But if Mom doesn't get better, she might..." The silence that followed was heavier than anything Nathan had ever experienced in a boardroom. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a crisp $50 bill. "I'd like to buy Ilara," he said, "but $5 isn't nearly enough for someone that special. How about 50? Zoe's eyes widened. "Really? That's enough for medicine. Maybe even food, too." He handed her the money. She clutched it with both hands. But before giving Ilara away, Zoe looked at him solemnly. "You'll take care of her, right? She's not really a toy. She protects people. People you love." Nathan felt the last of his defenses crumble. "I promise," he said quietly. "I'll take care of her, and I'll take care of you too." Zoe was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered more to herself than to him. "If Mom's not okay, I can't sleep. I stay next to her all night just to make sure she's still breathing. I tell her stories. I sing her songs she used to sing to me. I wish I could be the sick one instead." Something inside Nathan broke, not out of pity, but awe. This tiny girl, so fragile, was trying to carry an entire world. He looked at her gently. "Is your home nearby?" She nodded. "Would it be okay if I walked with you?" he asked. "I just want to make sure you get home safely. And if it's okay, maybe meet your mom. I won't come in unless you want me to." Zoe studied him for a long moment. Her eyes were still wet, but something in them shimmered. Not fear, but maybe trust. "You can come," she whispered. "Mom doesn't know I'm out here, but I want her to know I'm bringing medicine home." Nathan followed Zoe down a cracked, uneven sidewalk. She moved quickly, as if each crack and loose stone had long since become familiar. Her small hand clutched the $50 bill like it was a lifeline, not to herself, but to her mother. The hem of her faded pink dress fluttered in the late afternoon sun, and her wild curls bounced with each quiet, determined step. He didn't speak, he just watched, and with every step, he felt like a trespasser in a world he never even knew existed. "My house is right here," Zoe said, pointing to a pale yellow wooden duplex, its paint sun-bleached and peeling. The screen door hung crooked on one hinge, and the porch sagged slightly under a broken plastic chair and an old paint bucket serving as a side table. Despite the poverty, a narrow row of wildflowers bloomed along the walkway, tiny daisies pushing their way through rusted tomato cans. Zoe pushed the door open. Inside, the apartment was dim and close. The air was heavy with the smell of illness, stale sweat, and damp paper. A single pot of watery soup simmered quietly on a hot plate. Stacks of overdue bills were piled high on a folding table. But the walls were covered in crayon hearts, rainbows, and stick figures of a mother and child holding hands under an impossibly blue sky. "Mama," Zoe called softly. "I'm home. I brought help." Nathan lingered at the doorway, unsure if he had any right to enter. From the dark back room came the sound of shallow, labored breathing. A woman lay on a mattress on the floor, a thin sheet clinging to her sweat-soaked body. Her face was drawn, lips cracked with dehydration. And yet, even in sickness, there was something fragile and breathtaking about her. Nathan understood instantly why Zoe loved her so fiercely. "Mama, wake up," Zoe whispered, kneeling beside the mattress. "I sold Ilara. We can buy your medicine now." The woman blinked slowly, her vision adjusting to the dim light. and the tall stranger standing in her doorway. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice raw with fear and fever. Nathan lifted both hands, his tone soft. "My name's Nathan. I met Zoe when she was selling her doll. I just wanted to make sure she got home safely." The woman, Camilla, glanced at her daughter, kneeling beside her with eyes full of hope and pain. Her face crumbled with guilt. "You didn't have to do that, baby," she whispered. "Ilara was the last thing Grandma gave you." "But you're the only thing I have, Mama," Zoe replied, her tears falling freely now. "If I lose you, Ilara won't matter anymore." Nathan turned away, breath catching in his throat. He had never seen love this pure, undiluted by ego, untouched by selfishness. Just a little girl trying to hold on to the only person that ever mattered. And in that moment, Nathan knew. He couldn't walk away from them. After that day, Nathan couldn't return to life as it was. He still went to work, still ran meetings, still signed deals at glossy marble tables. But in the quiet spaces between decisions and deadlines, he saw her, Zoe, clutching a crumpled $50 bill, her voice hoarse with hope. He began returning to the street where Camilla and Zoe lived. At first, just to check, to make sure they were safe. But then, the visits became habit. He never knocked. He stayed across the street beside his car, watching the crooked window where faint light spilled out at dusk, listening to the echo of Zoe's soft laughter mixed with her mother's persistent cough. Camilla had used the money Zoe brought home to buy medicine. She was getting better, slowly but surely. But Nathan knew antibiotics alone wouldn't be enough. They needed more. Proper care, food, safety, stability. So he began to act. He didn't want to bruise Camilla's dignity. He knew what pride could feel like. Had hated pity all his life. So instead of knocking on their door with cash or offers, he built something in the shadows. A community health support fund, created anonymously under the name of a made-up nonprofit, began sending funds regularly to Camilla's household. Their rent was suddenly covered for the next 3 months. A community doctor began making weekly visits, offering full checkups at no cost. A nearby grocery store donated food parcels every Friday, full of fresh produce and essentials. At first, Camilla was suspicious. She didn't believe in kindness that had no strings. But Zoe believed, and her belief, her innocence, wore down Camilla's defenses. One afternoon, Nathan arrived in the neighborhood to see Zoe sitting on the porch, drawing with sidewalk chalk. She was sketching a little house, a mother with long hair, a porcelain doll, and a tall man holding an umbrella over them all. She looked up and saw him. Her smile lit the steps. "Hi, Nathan," she called out. "Do you want to see Ilara? She sleeps next to Mama every night now. I tell her to keep watch. I try too, but I fall asleep sometimes." Nathan knelt beside her. He didn't know what to say, but inside he knew the truth. Ilara had done her job. She had guarded what mattered. Now, it was his turn. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a father. He wasn't anything important. But he was no longer a stranger. He was the one who had been chosen to protect. The following weeks passed like a gentle dream. Camilla was healing. Zoe smiled more. Nathan visited more often, always under the excuse of just in the neighborhood, though his heart had taken permanent residence long ago. Everything felt calm until he came back. That afternoon, Nathan was helping Zoe fix a tear on Ilara's velvet dress when Camilla suddenly stiffened. She stood frozen, eyes fixed on the window. Nathan followed her gaze and felt his chest tighten. A broad-shouldered man climbed out of a rusting SUV, wrinkled shirt, hard eyes, sour grin. "That's Derek," Camilla whispered, her voice cracking. Zoe clutched Nathan's arm and whispered, "That's my dad, the one who called me a useless little burden." Before they could react, the door swung open. Kicked in, without hesitation. Camilla stood in front of her daughter. "You don't get to walk in here." Derek smirked, eyes scanning the small room with disdain. "Well, well, upgraded already. Who's this? Your new wallet?" Nathan replied calmly, coldly, "I'm the man who didn't leave them behind." Camilla stepped forward, fury simmering just under the surface. "You left when I was sick, left your daughter at 4 years old, not one call, not 1 cent. And now you're back because we managed without you?" Derek narrowed his eyes. "I came back because someone's pouring money into this dump. I figure it's my turn to collect." Nathan stepped in front of Camilla protectively. "You have no right." "Wrong," Derek barked. "I'm her legal father. I'll file for custody." Suddenly, Zoe stepped between them. Her cheeks flushed red, her small fist clenched. "You're not my father," she shouted, her voice trembling, but fierce. "Fathers don't call their daughters worthless. Fathers don't throw dishes at moms. Fathers don't say, 'I wish you'd never been born.'" Derek faltered. Camilla gasped, pulling Zoe close. Her daughter's words hit harder than anything she could have said. "I heard everything. I remember everything," Zoe cried, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm not scared of you anymore. I'll never go back with you." Derek's jaw clenched. Then he looked to Nathan. "I'll see you in court." Nathan nodded, his voice calm but cold steel beneath. "And I'll be there, not to fight you, but to protect them forever." The very next morning, Nathan hired one of the top family law attorneys in the city. Together, they gathered everything: hospital records, prescription receipts, photos of Zoe selling the doll, sworn statements from neighbors about Derek's past abuse and abandonment. The court hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Camilla barely slept. Zoe spoke less, but her eyes no longer showed fear, because this time, she knew someone would fight for her. The courtroom was small, tucked away at the far end of the county courthouse. Wooden benches creaked with every shift. An American flag hung beside the faded words, "In God We Trust," barely visible under the fluorescent lighting. Camilla sat stiff beside her attorney, hands cold as ice. Nathan sat just behind her, silent but unwavering, his eyes never leaving her and Zoe. Zoe wore a simple navy blue dress, her hair neatly braided. She clutched Alara tightly, the doll now mended, clean, and quietly brave, like the girl holding her. Derek stood across the room, smirking beside his lawyer. A tall man in a dark suit, eyes as cold as his client's. The judge, a stern middle-aged woman with kind eyes behind her glasses, tapped her gavel. The hearing began. Derek's lawyer went first. "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "this wealthy outsider, Mr. Nathan Remy, has inserted himself into a family that is not his. My client, Mr. Derek Martin, is the biological father and has every right to reclaim custody. Ms. Camilla, on the other hand, allowed her daughter to beg on the street, selling dolls to strangers. That is not parental responsibility." Camilla lowered her head, but Nathan leaned forward and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Steady, grounding. Camilla's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Martin abandoned his family for 3 years. No support, no contact, no effort. Ms. Camilla did everything she could to keep her daughter alive. Zoe was not forced to sell her doll. She did it out of love. That love saved her mother's life." The judge looked toward Zoe. "Zoe, would you like to speak?" Zoe squeezed Alara tight. Then bravely she stood and walked to the front of the courtroom, small and trembling, but determined. "I don't want to live with Mr. Derek," she said, voice shaky but clear. "He used to say I made Mom poor. He threw plates when she coughed. I remember him yelling at me saying, 'I wish you were never born.' I was scared of him, but I'm not scared anymore, because now I have Mom, and I have Mr. Nathan." Silence fell over the room. Nathan looked up, his chest heavy with pride and emotion. The judge nodded once. We will recess for 30 minutes. When court resumed, the room held its breath. The judge stood, ruling in hand. After reviewing the evidence, testimonies, and current conditions, the court grants full legal custody to Ms. Camilla Martin. Mr. Derek Martin is found unfit due to neglect and endangerment. Camilla wept softly. And as for Mr. Nathan Remy, the judge continued, the court recognizes your role as an informal guardian and encourages your continued involvement in the child's well-being. Nathan said nothing, because Zoe had already turned, running into his arms, burying her face in his chest. I have a home now, she whispered. Nathan held her tight. You always did, he said, and it's right here. 1 year after the courtroom, their life wasn't rich or glamorous, but it was warm in the most honest way. Camilla had returned to work part-time at a small bakery nearby. Zoe was now in 3rd grade, often praised for her writing. As for Nathan, he still worked his same job, but every afternoon he stopped by their home to help with dinner, guide Zoe through homework, or simply sit and listen as mother and daughter told stories. He didn't have to do any of it, but he chose to. On rainy days, Nathan was the first to text, "Don't forget your coat." When Camilla caught a cold, he brought warm soup to the door. Every parent-teacher conference, he sat beside her, bouquet in hand, ready for Zoe to gift to her mom after school. Camilla had asked more than once, "Aren't you tired?" Nathan always smiled. Nothing ever made me feel more alive. And then, on a golden June morning, they had a wedding. No grand church, no printed invitations. Just their backyard, with wildflowers lining the walkway, string lights swaying from the porch, and a handwritten sign that read, "Today we become a family." Zoe was the happiest of all. Skipping around in a simple white dress and soft shoes, Elara clutched tight in her arms. The doll had been carefully prepared too. Brushed hair, a new lace dress, and a paper crown that said hope. Camilla emerged from the house holding a small bouquet. Daisies, lavender, and white roses Zoe had picked that morning. Her eyes welled up the moment she saw Nathan waiting. White shirt, light gray pants, that gentle smile he always wore when showing up at their door with dinner in hand. But today was different. Today his eyes said more than words ever could. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. The ceremony was simple. The officiant was their family doctor. Guests included friendly neighbors, bakery co-workers, and Zoe's school principal. The same man who'd once seen her arrive for her first day of school, afraid and silent, now blooming with trust. When the officiant asked, "Nathan, do you promise to stay, even when things get hard?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He turned to Camilla, then knelt slightly and took Zoe's hand. "Do you remember the day we met?" he asked softly. Zoe nodded. "I sold Elara, but you paid more, because you said I was worth it." Nathan smiled. "And today, I'm not buying anything. I'm only giving. I promise not to leave, not when it's easy, and especially not when it's hard, because a real father is the one who stays, even when the storm comes." Camilla couldn't hold back her tears. Zoe rushed into his arms. Elara slipped from her lap, landing gently on the grass, resting in sunlight that filtered through the trees like a quiet witness to everything they had survived. As warm applause filled the air, Camilla cupped Nathan's face with her hand. "We're a family now," she whispered. Nathan nodded. "And home is the place I choose to stay." The wedding came and went. Simple, perfect. But marriage was not about flowers and vows. It was about every day after. Love, after all, isn't a constant honeymoon. Remembering to turn off the stove, a quiet hug at the end of a long day. It's presence, not loud or flashy, but steady, like breath. Camilla and Nathan didn't move into a mansion. They stayed in the same little home, full of memories, Zoe reciting poems, cinnamon in the air on rainy afternoons, and Elara always resting in her arms like a silent companion. Post-marriage life didn't change drastically, but day by day, love grew quietly, like the backyard wildflowers that bloomed without effort, simply because they had light. Every evening, Nathan brought home a sprig of lavender. Camilla placed it in a glass jar by the wedding photo. Zoe, proud and animated, often told her friends, "My mom and Mr. Nathan are the best couple ever." Then one crisp November morning, Camilla stepped out of the bathroom with a pregnancy test trembling in her hands. Nathan, brewing coffee, turned and didn't need to ask. One look at her told him everything. Camilla smiled, tears welling. Nathan walked over, wrapped her in his arms. No words, just warmth, just heartbeat. The following months became a new kind of journey, not without worry, but full of hope. Nathan was the one counting the weeks. Week 12, the baby's the size of a lemon. Week 20, baby starts kicking now. He read parenting books, played classical music in the evenings, and whispered into Camilla's belly like love could already be heard. Zoe made a list of boy names, Max, Leo, then Finn. Elara was guardian of the baby, and Zoe dutifully placed her on Camilla's lap each night, whispering, "Watch mommy, okay? She gets tired." The house, already warm, now buzzed with new energy. Framed photos made room for one more member. Pregnancy wasn't easy for Camilla. Sleepless nights, dizziness, backaches. But Nathan always rose early, with warm water, an extra pillow, or simply to sit quietly, his hand on her belly, waiting together. "Are you scared?" Camilla once asked in the dark. Nathan kissed her forehead. "I was scared I couldn't love enough to heal your past, but I realized I don't have to do it alone. You're loving me back day by day." One spring afternoon, sunlight spilled across the floorboards as Zoe colored in her room. Camilla's first contraction hit. Nathan didn't panic. The bag was ready, but as he took her hand, he still said, "I'm here. You're not alone." Labor lasted nearly 10 hours. Camilla was exhausted, but her eyes never left Nathan, the one wiping sweat from her brow, letting her squeeze his hand raw, whispering, "You're doing great," over and over. Then, a cry, a son. Nathan held the baby and placed him on Camilla's chest. Zoe was allowed in soon after, clutching Elara, now as a big sister. "He looks like you," she whispered. Nathan smiled, "And I believe he'll love this family just like you did." That night, as the hospital slept, Nathan sat beside the bed, arms wrapped around Camilla and their newborn. Zoe curled on the couch nearby. The room was dim, filled with the soft scent of milk and lavender. It was everything he had ever hoped for. He looked at Camilla, the woman who had not just survived her sorrow, but dared to love again, and in doing so, gave him a home, a family, and a future. He placed his hand on his son's back and whispered, not for anyone to hear but himself, "Being a father means staying, even through the storm, and especially when the sun finally rises." Time passed like a quiet breeze. No one noticed it slipping by, until one morning little Camilla toddled out onto the porch, golden curls catching the morning sun, toy cup in hand. Nathan was adjusting the hammock by the tree. As he turned, she waddled toward him, unsteady but beaming. "Daddy," she called, clear and full like morning light. Nathan froze for a moment. Then he knelt, arms wide. Camilla ran straight into him, dropping her toy cup onto the grass. He wrapped his arms around her, kissing the top of her soft little head. It was the first time she called him Dad. No one coached her, no one prompted her. But in her tiny heart, she already knew. This was the man who stayed, who held her through fevers, who hummed lullabies without words. That night after Camilla had fallen asleep, Zoe walked into the living room with a book and sat beside Nathan. She was older now, her hair longer, her eyes deeper. "Dad, Nathan," she said, hesitating slightly. He turned and smiled. "What is it, sweetheart?" Zoe was quiet. Then she looked up. "You're not just Mr. Nathan anymore. You're the one who stayed when everyone else left. From the doll, to court, to bedtime stories. You've always been here. That's what a dad is." Nathan didn't speak. He simply squeezed her hand. The same small hand that once offered him a broken doll, asking for help without saying the words. From that day on, the words "daddy" echoed through their house, in the kitchen, the yard, late at night, and early in the morning. No birth certificate could define it. No DNA test could replace it. It was choice, repeated in care, in presence, in love. Their family wasn't perfect, but it was full of laughter, movie nights under blankets, slightly burned Sunday pancakes, and hugs given for no reason at all. And that was everything. Not by blood, not by name, but by choice and love, again and again.